Aloha Aina, and welcome to Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's Future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. I'm Ahuke Kahu Cardwell, and here we are today in beautiful Pololo Valley. Isn't this a beautiful view behind me? We got a great guest for you on the show today, so let's come on over and meet him. Hey Foster, how's it?
Aloha.
Aloha.
Peoi.
Oh, my kaino, oi.
Oh, makai.
Good to have you on the show. Foster Ampong from Maui. What part of Maui, Foster?
I grew up in Lahaina, but right now I'm living in Kahului.
You're living in Kahului. Wow, okay. Well, you know, I know you're involved in a lot of stuff, a lot of issues in Hawaii, and how I know that is because I see your emails on the Yahoo chat groups, and I know you're passionate about a lot of things, but I think I'd be correct if I said that the number one thing that you really care about the most today in Hawaii is about sustainable living, yeah?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
first of all, tell our viewers, what is sustainable living?
I guess the easiest way to explain it, sustainable living is if you think back before technology, took over much of our lives. As a society, be it here in the islands or on any other major continents, our survival was basically dependent upon each community being able to provide sustenance, be it hunting or agriculture or fishing by itself. And today, the way you look at all the islands and the overdevelopment that's taking place on all islands, it really worries me, concerns me that my kids and all the kids, be you Hawaiian or non-Hawaiian, Japanese, Pake, Filipino, they're not going to have a sustainable environment. And unfortunately, the bills that are being pushed through the state legislature right now, which are purportedly saying that they're going to ensure that laws are created for a sustainable lifestyle in the next 30 to 50 years, in actuality it's not going to sustain the people the way they've got it all set up. And I know this all too well because I've done the research. I participated in the public discussions on Maui. Their idea and their plans that they have in print is actually going to sustain corporations. It's going to sustain government. And the ones that's going to be doing the sustaining are the people, the makainana.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is a couple of things. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear you say we're going to get to the point soon where there's going to be too many people chasing too few resources. And the people that are going to be in a position to not only get those resources, but actually profit from those resources are the people that have the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's going to be like we hear so much in the news that a few are going to be very wealthy and very well off, and everybody else, the much larger component, are going to be not so well off and not able to have the resources and live in a sustainable lifestyle. Yes?
Exactly. I mean, when you look at today's society, why do we see, so many of the local families moving away from the islands?
Yeah.
Why do we go to the supermarket and we see the ever increasing rise in the prices for food,
Yes.
gas, etc.?
Yes.
There's a reason for all of that.
Yeah.
And the nexus of this is that sustainability.
They cannot sustain a lifestyle here.
No,
Yeah.
and not in a way that the government, state government, or the businesses are trying to sell to the public. That's my greatest concern, is that the politicians and the businesses are trying to sell to that greater number, the makainana, the average working person. The idea that if you support our ideas, our thinking, our saying that, okay, you support this business venture. Good example, the Hawaii Super Ferry.
Yes.
That will give the island and the community a sustainable future. But in reality, what did it give us?
Problems.
Completely, and it's not over.
Yeah.
And
far.
And that, I think, is probably the quickest and easiest example I can give you of the type of sustainable future that I see if we as a people don't start to stand up and speak out against it.
And you know what? You're right. When we talk about the super ferry, the people it theoretically will sustain, if it actually ever gets off the ground and makes a profit, are people that don't even live in Hawaii.
Yeah.
People that live thousands of miles away that are rich people that are either it's going to make them richer.
Mhm.
And yet it creates all kinds of problems for people that live here in Hawaii. Traffic, congestion, drugs, crime, litter, all that stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
That's yeah. So the super ferry is a classic example of what you're talking about in terms of we got to wake up.
Mhm.
We got to wake up. So, what can we do, Foster, to begin to shift this to the kind of future that we all want to have here in Hawaii?
Well, you know, speaking for myself, in a practical, well, first of all, I always look at the question.
Mhm.
And then when I look at the question, I have to remind myself to make sure that I have that question in its proper context.
Okay.
Because it's really important. So I have to understand and make sure that, okay, when I seek an answer to a specific question, I make sure that I have the question within its proper context.
Very smart.
And so when we talk about sustainable living, or the issue of sustainability, got to make sure, are we talking about sustainability for the environment, which includes all the people of the island? And mind you, now that doesn't mean only Hawaiians or only non-Hawaiians. When you're talking about sustainability of the environment, that includes the people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has to.
And with the people meaning all of the people. When you look at the Sustainability Task Force 2050 that the state had set up a few years ago, now they got bills in the legislature that they're pushing to get made into law. That bill in itself, in its proper context, only sustains and supports corporation and business and government. It does not support the people, because what will happen is you'll have gated community mansions, all these people from outside of the state and the country moving into Hawaii.
Mhm.
And all of us people aren't going to be able to pay gas, pay food, afford to buy. As it is right now, there's no way, the average person by himself with his own income afford to buy a home or even an apartment or even qualify for housing assistance. So that's what I mean by making sure that the question is in its proper context. So to answer that question, what do we do?
Yeah. Well, how do we turn that around?
Every person has to first understand that, okay, look inside of yourself. We all want to be free of taxes, of all these issues or items that overburden us, as a family. So the only way I can do for myself and my family is to get involved, to speak up. But to be able to do that effectively, I need to educate myself. And to do that, I need to be open. And so I go through this process, and then I get involved. I write letters. I go to hearings and I testify. One of the things we all can do is, first of all, really look inside yourself and ask yourself, do you really, what are you feeling about the high cost of living? What are you feeling about having, not no funds, or that you don't have the ability to buy a home to shelter your family in? So these are the questions you ask yourself, and then you really want to identify and be honest with yourself, how it makes you feel inside. I really like to hope that, if anything, the people will understand that if they don't speak up to their elected officials, to the members of the committees and the commissions, that are responsible for listening to the people's concerns. If they don't step out and step up and speak out and let the politicians and the other people know what's going on, then they're not going to know. First of all, and because there's, it's so easy. And again, I don't mean to always fall back to this, but the Hawaii Super Ferry fiasco is such a really big. It's like a neon sign.
It's a huge symbol for what you're talking about.
Completely, and it's like, what I'm saying is that, look, on one hand, we don't care what the people are saying. You're going to do it. You're going to get what we tell you to get. And then
Like
on
it
the
or
other,
not.
yeah, and then on the other hand, you have the people saying, no, we're not going to stand for it. We are going to oppose it. We are going to come out. The kids, the parents, the grandparents, the cross sections of the society. You had the doctors, the environmentalists, the Hawaiians, etc. They all came together because we all had a commonality
Yeah.
that we shared.
Yeah.
And I see it becoming more and more prevalent.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. So obviously, you know other people on Maui who have gotten involved like you. Yeah,
Yes,
good,
yes, yes.
good.
In fact, be from Lahaina to Makena, Wailea, Waihe, Wai'ehu, out in Hana. From one end of the island to the other end of the island, for lack of a better way of describing this, there's quite a bit of battlegrounds,
Hmm.
and the fight and the struggle, for our environment,
Hmm.
for our future.
Hmm.
We're trying to, we, we really are trying to stop or at least slow down this momentum,
Hmm.
by developers, by government. Because when you think about it, nothing can happen without the approval or the nod from government. We live in these little islands in the middle of the Pacific. And if we don't find the balance, if we don't find the will and the courage to just stop the overdevelopment, stop, this almost this frenzied type of mentality to quickly build as much as we can. It's like somebody knows something's coming. Something's we gotta hurry up before somebody wakes up and
Yeah.
we can't build no more hotels. We can't build no more homes. And so on Maui, like all the islands, there's all these battlegrounds that are taking place.
Hmm.
So yeah, I work with quite a few people there. I don't belong to any one group.
So the people you work with, Foster, on Maui, what woke them up? Was it the super ferry? Was it something before the super ferry? What woke people up?
Quite frankly, I think what woke the majority of the people up is the high cost of living, um, the skyrocketing cost of homes. The super ferry was, I think, what brought all the different segments of the community together under one flag, under one cause. Yeah, the Hawaii Super Ferry definitely did that.
Hmm.
As you know, for many of the Kanaka Maoli, the Hawaiians, I'd say within the last 30 years, up until 30 years ago, most of our parents and grandparents' generations were just trying to survive. The
Yeah,
the colonialism.
yeah. The occupation.
Yeah, the occupation. And this was during a period where you had the plantations, were really controlling basically the whole island, the economy, the people, their lives. Who went to the good schools and who didn't go to the good schools.
Literally controlled every facet of
Yeah,
their lives.
yeah. And you seeing it happen again,
Mhm.
today. Nothing's changed. Maybe just different faces. Maybe it's a little bit more sophisticated. When you look at OHA, who's supposed to be doing work for the betterment of Hawaiians.
Mhm.
I see OHA and that saying that they keep pontificating, but then when you go down to the beaches and you see the Hawaiian families that are suffering because they can't, pay rent, they can't
Yeah.
buy homes. So you got a lot of them down there. So
Yeah, not helping them.
no, it hasn't
No.
changed.
No, hasn't changed at all.
No.
Yep, 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 yep. So, what do you think? I mean, there's the super ferry, but what do you think are some other issues that hopefully are going to wake people up here and get more people involved? What's a good way to get people involved? A lot of people who watch our show, people watch our show from all around the world, Foster, but a lot of people watch our show in Hawaii and they want to find their peace. They want to become involved. But what would you say to them to get them out of their armchairs and get involved and find their peace and create a better future for Hawaii?
When you were just talking about the thing that I see happening, I got to look at geopolitics.
Okay. And what is geopolitics?
Okay, when you look at the political landscape on a global scale.
Okay.
Okay, everyone today, be you here in Hawaii or be you in the mainland, United States, or the world for that matter. When people look at the United States, and I know this because of my own personal research, so I'm not, speaking in third party manner. But a lot of people don't like the United States. They don't like, what's taking place, more so the government of the United States. And
Yeah, not the people, but the
yeah,
government.
right, not the people, but the government. And so a lot of people that I come into contact with on a day-to-day basis, they express basically the same concerns and the same grievances, and distrust in government here in Hawaii because of what happened, with the United States government worldwide.
The illegal overthrow and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
so so people can relate. There's that people here in the islands, where you Hawaiian or not, can relate to the injustices, can relate to the concerns that we're talking about. How do you get them to really get up out of the chair, I guess, so to say,
that's exactly
and get
what I'm
involved?
asking. How do you get them up out of the chair?
For most people, and it's a human thing. I'm not making any judgment on any particular person, but it's difficult to really find the courage to stand up and be open and articulate yourself. Because there's this fear that of some kind of repercussion, or kickback to the person. But when something really terrible happens to your own family, somebody close to you, and then you really feel it, then that's when people really start to really get up and start to do something about it.
Is that what happened to you?
In manner of speaking, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And I look at it as a blessing in disguise, because I knew in my life, even though I had a job, I worked in a hotel business, everything was fine. You know, there were many experiences that I have to say were a result of racism. Okay, and so, but I didn't understand it at that time, and so I guess when you get older, they say you get a little wiser, right? Hopefully that's the case. So yeah, I went through some personal experiences, and
So it didn't happen to another member of your family. It happened to you.
it happened directly with me, completely. And okay, to make a long story short, without really getting into a whole lot of detail, my mother grew up in Lahaina. She was born in Lahaina, and she grew up raised in Taro in Kahoma Valley. She and her two older sisters were orphaned when they were really young, and so they lived with relatives, and it was a hard life. See, when I'm growing up, I don't see it as being a hard life, but then when you experience so many abuse, and trauma, for me, I wanted to understand, why was my mother the way she was? Why did she do some of the things that she did? And so I started to really search for my identity, and I think that's one of the deepest scars that we as a people, and even as human beings throughout the whole world, if you don't have an identity,
You have nothing.
you got nothing.
Yeah.
And that's basically what was happening to me before I discovered who I really was. That I was having these experiences, and I felt that racism, but part of it was because I didn't have an identity.
Yeah.
But I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
So when I finally started to search for my identity, and the unfortunate part of it is, you're vulnerable, you're gullible, so people are going to take advantage of you, and that's exactly what happened. But even though I went through some pretty unfortunate experiences, that only made me stronger and more determined to look for myself.
I was just going to ask you, how did you overcome that?
I wanted to know. Well, this is what I did. For about 20 years, I resisted getting involved with my family's genealogy. I had an uncle that was doing it, and he gave up a lot, and he spent a lot of his own time and money and sacrificed a lot for the genealogy. And he asked me back 20 years ago if I was interested in taking it on, and what he was looking for was someone else in the next generation to pass off the information to. I didn't want nothing to do with it, because I was already going through a whole lot of. Well, anyway, if I wanted to understand my mother, I needed to do the genealogy, and so I did, and that led to not only my family genealogy, but my whole identity. Then I understood what took place 115 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
And then when I started to do the research, I started to think for myself. And so I started to go to the archives, to do, go to the museums, look up, the material for myself, and do my own critical analysis. And there was a lot that I learned. I learned that what I was taught and led to believe for most of my life was not true.
So once you begin to discover your own identity, that was the foundation on which everything else
Yes.
was built.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yes.
Takes a lot of courage to do that, Foster.
It does on one hand,
Yeah.
and then and I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
On another hand, when you got your whole family spooked, and they're looking at you like you're crazy because, oh my God, he's turning native.
Yeah.
You know, don't go talk to Uncle Foster. He's crazy. You know, you really got no other place to go.
Foster, one of the things that I know you know a lot about because I've read your emails is this thing, let's take the Akaka Bill as an example. The Akaka Bill is for Native Hawaiians, and so that is a race of people. It's an ethnicity.
Yes.
And really, when we talk about independence or a free Hawaii, we're talking about a national class of people,
Yes.
which encompasses all ethnicities.
Yes.
So, I know that you know this real well, and I know this real well, but explain that for our viewer, would you?
Okay. I'm glad you bringing that up, because if there was one thing I wanted to really express clearly is the fact that when you're talking about the Akaka Bill, and even when you look at this so-called ceded land settlement that OHA and Lingo are trying to push through the legislature, you're talking about two very similar issues. OHA is projecting the illusion that they represent the will of the people. Yet they haven't gone out to the communities and asked the community how they felt and what they want. They're afraid to, quite frankly, because they know that there's a lot of opposition out there to what they're doing,
Sure.
and rightfully so.
Sure. Okay. And so, if I understand it correctly, independence for Hawaii, to get the nation back, that would not exclude people who are not Hawaiian by ethnicity. It would actually include them because because when you were talking about nation, we're talking about a citizen base, not what race you are or not.
Exactly.
So a lot
Exactly.
of people out there that think, boy, if Hawaii becomes independent, I'm not Hawaiian, I'm Haole, I'm Chinese, I'm Japanese, I'm going to be left out. That ain't true.
That's not true at all.
Yeah.
That's not true
Yeah.
at all. But OHA and the state are projecting that to be
Yes.
so. And that's where the
Yes.
confusion is. The Akaka Bill, if it passes, it'll wipe out, it'll wipe out pretty much everything that you just described, that, on a national level.
Yes.
And
So that's the danger of the Akaka.
Yes.
For our viewers watching the show right now, what would you say to them about what the future of Hawaii looks like to you? What would you like the future of Hawaii to look like?
The future of Hawaii,
Yeah.
I believe, can be extremely vibrant, extremely... Okay, excuse me, I get kind of emotional and passionate about
That's
this.
all right.
The future of Hawaii, what everyone sees right now, okay, that's in the island. When Hawaii, and it's not a if, but when Hawaii becomes free and independent, the people that are living here are not going to lose what they think they'll lose because of a free Hawaii or an independent Hawaii. What will happen is, I believe, and I know, because I know many of the people that we work with, very, very good decisions are going to be made. You're going to have very competent, very capable, very compassionate, and very honest people that are going to be running the government. And so people won't lose their houses, people won't lose their lands, people will not lose water rights. What I see really is, I see a prosperity, an explosion of prosperity because of the land, and the sea.
Wow.
If we don't find the courage and the will right now to take care of the land, and that includes the people, and that means the Hawaiian people and people who aren't Hawaiian, all the people. If we don't find a way to take care of that now, then we're in trouble. But I don't see that. I don't see that at all.
I really like what you said about free Hawaii equals an explosion of prosperity.
Completely. In full spectrum, not only in agriculture, not only in business, and not only in in culture or ethnicity,
Uh-huh.
but I see it as a whole island community. You know, our kupunas, and let me end with this. When one looks at the term sustainable living, okay, there's only one place that I know of that actually achieved successfully and a sustainable living, and that's with the environment and the people. And that was with the Kanakamali Uivi, our ancestors in the islands. Imagine all the little islands in the middle of the Pacific with no outside help. And for thousands of years, they were able to prosper, you know, because they were able to fish, farm, and live. Yeah, like any other society, we fought. But at least when they fought battles, they left alone the taro fields, you know.
Yeah.
And so when you look at sustainable living, the Hawaiians, the ancient Awakupunas, before Captain Cook stumbled into the islands, had actually achieved a sustainable living. So if people really want a sustainable environment, a sustainable future,
The answers are there.
it's right there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not in what they want to make or bring into this world today.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, they really messed it up in the last 250 years.
So the answers are all right there.
It's right
for us.
there. You know, it's just a matter of people wanting to do it. They got to get over their fears.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
they got to get over their fears. We're not, we don't exclude anyone, and we're not trying to exclude anyone. All we're saying is that maybe they should start including us. You know,
That's great.
Yeah.
Foster, thank you very much
Okay.
for being on Voices of Truth. As always, you're a pleasure to be with and visit and hear your mana'o. And good luck on Maui and keep on fighting. Don't
Thanks.
stop. Well, thank you for watching. This has been Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's Future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. I'm Ehukekahu Cardwell, and remember to watch us on the web on voicesoftruth.tv.com. Also, our weekly video commentaries on freehawaiitv.com. And of course, it's all part of the Free Hawaii Broadcasting Network. Thanks for being with us, and until next time, ahui ho!